And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Dr. Sam is with us. He is live in Bosnia. Dr. Sam, let's let you finish up that statement from Ed in Charlotte and his questions. You talked about the water possibilities, and that it's almost like the power of lords in France, isn't it?
Well, what we do science, George. Now, besides the fact that our water does not contain any microbes which are harmful for us, it has perfect pH, 7.45. That's the pH of our blood. It vibrates very high. When we sent samples to the late Dr. Masaru Emoto in Japan 9 years back, our water had perfect hexagonal structure with a beautiful crystal-like structure. It was, you could say, energetically alive. And when we think about our life, like Tesla said, is about the energy, frequency, and vibration. Our project is not about archaeology, but energy properties, very specific frequencies, and very high vibration. It's a unique combination of archaeology, science, spirituality, healing, and finally, George, we purchased more than 1 million square feet of neglected land near the tunnel, and we turned it into one of the most beautiful parks in Europe, which has become the cultural oasis for Balkan and European region, with festivals and fairs and concerts and music and yoga sessions and spirituality and meditation with the top quality sport event. Novak Djokovic has his tennis courts in our park. And finally, our project is open for the volunteers from all over the world. In the last 14 years, we have had 3,750 volunteers from 64 countries making this project the most open project in the world. Anyone can apply from 8 to 84 years old. Our website, Bosnian Pyramids.ba, BosnianPyramids.ba. They can come, they can volunteer, they can visit, they can become part of this most exciting archaeological story of our time.
Good for you. Let's go to final calls. Let's go to Judy in Indiana. First-time caller. Hi, Jude. Go ahead. Judy, you with us? Nope, she has departed. But let us try Mary in New Jersey. Go ahead, Mary.
Hello, George. Hello, Dr. Sam.
Hi.
I have two questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The first one is about the temperature of the air and the water, regardless of the season. Are they steady temperatures? That when you're down under there.
It's always the same. Yeah. Okay.
You with us, Sam? Go ahead.
So, yeah, the temperature in the tunnels is always the same, all 12 months a year. It is 12.5 degrees Celsius. It's very pleasant during the winter time, and the freezing temperatures out there, it's really nice and comfortable. During the winter time and hot temperatures, it's very refreshing inside. The perfect temperature to store the food, for example. The temperature of the water, those 5 sources of the water, is a little bit less, 11 degrees. Also perfect temperature. And the water is crystal clear and clean.
Can you bathe in it or swim in it?
Well, they are not so big. Plus, what we do, we bottle that water. It's high vibrating water. What you can do, you can put a few drops in, let's say, 1 liter of our city water or some other fresh water and so on. Keep it overnight in our homes, in the glass bottles. By the morning, since the pyramid water has the superior information, then the whole bottle with the water starts vibrating higher. That's amazing, and then you can use that water and drink.
Mary, let's go back for your second question. Go ahead.
I caught the 2 names, the sun and the moon pyramid. You said there were 6. I didn't catch the other 4 names.
Yes. The sun and the moon pyramid, I named them back in 2005. There is a very intriguing astronomical phenomenon between the two, which I explained. The shadow of the sun completely covers the moon pyramid. during the first summit. Now, the third one, the Pyramid of Dragons. We don't have dragons in Bosnia. A dragon is a symbol for the knowledge in Mexico, China, Peru. So I gave my respect to the knowledgeable builders. The fourth one, Temple of Mother Earth. Earth is our mother. It's just we don't behave like that. We behave like we are the conqueror of our planet. So I wanted to show people, hey, we need to respect our mother. The fifth one, the Pyramid of Love. It's the only pyramid in the world with such name. Why love? Because love, not only in our planetary sense, but in the cosmic sense, that's the most powerful process, the binding material between the people, between the living beings, and everything is alive. All four kingdoms on our planet are alive. The mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the human kingdom. And the sixth pyramid has exactly the same name, the sixth pyramid. We don't have, any other names so far. Interestingly enough, Sun, Moon, Dragon on one side, equilateral triangle, and on the other one, Sun, Moon, and the sixth pyramid, equilateral triangle.
Dr. Sam, we're still trying to figure out how they built the pyramids in Egypt. Have you figured out how they built them in Bosnia?
Well, 5 questions in our job. First one is what? In our case, we know it's a pyramid complex. The second one is who. Well, we exactly don't know who. We don't have enough scientific proof, but indirectly we can say there are very advanced civilizations who knew very certain and very specific frequencies and how to use them in the real life. Number 3, when? We know when, 29,200 years, which is radiocarbon date. However, the calendar or calibrated age is 14% more, which is 33,600 years. Number 4, how? Well, we can see the concrete, which is the best quality. They had their way to change the molecular structure. In our case, what we do, we use pressure, we use, high temperature, and so on. How did they do it? Very hard to say. How did they move it? Well, the way we do it, we fight gravitational force with even bigger force. We make cranes. If block is 100 tons, we make crane which is 200-ton capacity. So this is rather primitive, rather crude way to fight gravity. Imagine if you can find a way, maybe, to find the proper frequency of either electromagnetism or ultrasound, which can neutralize gravitational force. That would be much easier. And then you transport it using levitation. Simply send from one place to another. And the fifth question in archaeology is, of course, the purpose, why, and it seems that we've done the most in that particular aspect. We've been measuring so many benefits of pyramids. The water was one that we discussed. Food also. George, we did an experiment with the seeds of beans.
Mm-hmm.
What we did, we put, yes.
And they must have, and I bet they grew.
Yeah, we put seeds, I'll be very brief. Seeds of beans in one bag, keep it at home as a control group, one bag in the tunnels, one bag on the top of the Sun Pyramid. After 14 days, we were checking the germinization process. 60% of control group started growing. 100% from the seeds exposed to the pyramid energy, the top of the Sun Pyramid, in the tunnels, started growing. 100%. The bean season is from May until beginning of September, and we notice that the pyramid seeds grow 2 to 3 times quicker, richer, and healthier. This is the pyramid energy.
Let's go to Joe in Monterey, California. Joseph, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, George. Sam, you do an incredible amount of work, but you never asked the question, why did they build it? And it seems to me that it may be a communication device between planets or a culture, other far distant, to see what's going on with the planet and life on it, to monitor it, to see if the planet's life cycle, to get information as much as they can galactically. And of course, if the planet is in trouble, maybe they could do something about it. Thank you, George. Oh, by the way, is there much UFO activity around these pyramids? And have you ever done any experiments with people in the pyramids, different pyramids, communicating telepathically? And does it raise the intelligence of a person? Thank you, George.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, thank you, Joseph. As far as the UFO activities, there are reports from 1948 in the local newspapers about those vehicles hovering about the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. While using Oldfield's technology back in 2007, Harry Oldfield himself, when he was filming the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, basically what you do, you can see energy fields that are not visible to the naked human eye. So what we could see was the energy signature, oval shape, different signature than the other energy fields going towards the top of the Sun Pyramid, then disappearing, and after a few moments coming back. So there are some very interesting things. Now, about the communication, we have measured the direction of the energy beam. First, we thought it's probably at 90% to the sky, but it was not. In the morning, it was more to the east. In the afternoon, west. What does that mean? It means that it follows the path of our sun. Is it possible that our planet communicates with our sun? It is possible. Is it possible that it uses the sun as the cosmic gate to communicate with other solar systems? Well, it is possible. And other star constellations and other galaxies, it is possible. But then the energy flow, the communication flow, is never one-sided. The pyramid is a transmitter, but at the same time, the pyramid is antenna. It receives the information. So if we have these two flows of information, then you have base for the cosmic internet.
Daniel's with us in Florida. Daniel, go ahead, sir.
Hi there, George. Thank you so much. This is a fantastic topic, and I like how it ties in geometry, sacred geometries. And I wonder, Dr. Osman Galik, I'm misunderstanding the name, but thank you so much, Dr. Sam. I'm sorry?
Yeah, Dr. Sam Osmanagic.
Osman Galik.
Go ahead.
Let's call him Dr. Sam, Danny.
Dr. Sam, thank you. The disconnect, I like that you acknowledge the disconnect from our understanding, and that maybe the ancients, and it's a type of curse that we misunderstand what these big structures, the pyramids, are, that it's not ubiquitous knowledge to everybody. And I'm curious about what mistake it was that we might have made to be considered the younger brother to the elders that know, and we need to research very hard to understand these things, that it's somewhat of our curse, that machinery and extracting oil and the gold of the earth, which might be considered to be the blood of the earth, to some of the ancients that don't wear shoes, they want to be connected. And I wonder about the artifacts. Are there more artifacts associated with Bosnia and how they tie in with ancient civilization or out of this world? Because I've recently heard of one in down in the South America where there are artifacts being dug up, and if they find gold, they don't mind destroying the artifacts, these looters. But how it ties in some of the detailed illustrations that our primitive man could have made, that like it's laser accurate illustrations with aliens. So the blood of the earth, misunderstanding like a curse, the geometry, and how it ties in with what they call the mamas or the priests in Colombia, in some of these like the lost cities and other unknown areas. Thank you so much for your research and for this interesting topic, Sam and George.
Thank you, Daniel. Interesting question, Sam.
Thank you, Daniel. Actually, there are a few questions. First, the sacred geometry. What are the elements of sacred geometry? First, equilateral triangle. Why? 3 points in the space you can connect in unlimited ways, but only one way gives you perfect equilateral triangle, the same length of sides, 3 times inner angles at 60 degrees. And that's exactly what we had in Bosnia 2 times. Sun, moon, dragon pyramid, sun, moon, and the 6th pyramid. The second one is hexagon. The next one is number pi, 3.14. The next one is number phi, golden section, 1.618. All these elements are incorporated when Bosnian pyramids were built. Why is that important? When you have elements of sacred geometry, you have the movement of the energy. And that's one thing that mainstream or majority of independent researchers do not know. Movement of the energy, everything was about the energy for the ancient builders. The next question, why this connection? Well, the answer is very simple. Those who control the history control the present. They have the monopoly on knowledge. Instead of knowledge, which is the pyramids are the cultural heritage of the planet, instead of this heritage belonging to all of us, unfortunately, they belong to the elites. Which elites? The beginning, a couple of hundred years back, English, French, today German and American. Very small group of people, not that they decided it is not good for the humanity, the rest of the humanity, to know about those features of the pyramids. Imagine that you have really, you mentioned the energy also, that you have clean and unlimited and free energy. Everything would change. We would not have, oil and gas transportation. We would not have usage of coal or nuclear energy. We would not have the transportation, huge tankers, no refineries, no petrochemical industry, no chemical industry, no plastics, no car industry as we know it today, no food industry with the additives, no drink industry. So our world would change. The old world would collapse and we would be headed towards the social equality, just a matter of energy. Instead, what we have coal, thermal power, we have oil, gas, nuclear, we have very expensive energy, which is limited and which contaminates our space. So, the question of the energy, the ancients would solve much, a much better way, much more efficient way, and much cleaner way. As far as the artifacts, in one of the tunnels, which we call Rame 3, so we have Rame tunnels, Rame 2, Rame 3, 4, 5, and so on, we discovered 3,300 artifacts from different time periods, as recent as the late Middle Age, early Middle Age, Byzantine times, ancient Roman times, Neolithic times. So some of the open sections are obviously used that recently last few thousand years. Mostly, these are ceramic pieces or some metal pieces. But it tells us that some of the parts of the tunnels are open, even though majority of them are filled.
They're all over the place, Sam. They're all over the place. We're going to come back and wrap things up next on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, Dr. Sam with us as we've been talking about the Bosnian pyramids and just remarkable what's happening out there, where the energy comes from and everything else. If you're interested in more, go to globalpyramidconference.com. It's a major event that he's got going, globalpyramidconference.com. And Dr. Sam, thank you for being on the program. Keep in touch with us and be safe out there in Bosnia. Now, they say that when words fail, music speaks. Music historian Harvey Kubernik knows this more than anybody else. Harvey, welcome. I'm looking forward to this tonight.
Hey, George. Delighted to be here.
Lots to talk with you about. And, of course, your incredible book, Jimi Hendrix, Voodoo Child. What a tragic ending to a very talented young man, huh?
The focus, sadly, has been on the ending. I think, hopefully we can try to look at the whole journey. Art functions as an extension of ourselves, and his art is an extension of himself, and it sure resonates with all of us.
Harvey, somebody who knew Jimi Hendrix, of course, was the great Billy F. Gibbons from ZZ Top. And Billy, of course, is a avid listener of the show, and he's with us right now. Reverend, welcome, Billy.
George, you guys are touching upon the good spot. And when we come to Jimi Hendrix, nothing needs to be said more than wow.
What a talented guy. How often did you come across Hendrix in your career, Billy?
Well, we were playing with right before ZZ Top. I was working with the group, The Moving Sidewalks, and we got a phone call that said, "Hey, can you guys join up this new tour called the Jimi Hendrix Experience?" And of course, I was fortunate enough to have stumbled across that first record. It's our experience, and from there it went. I had the really good fortune to become good friends with Jimmy. Is not only a great guitar player, but a great guy.
When you heard about his death in 1970, Billy, do you remember where you might have been?
Yeah, we were in. We started off in Texas, and we wound up following the tour all the way to the West Coast.
Well, that's something else. Billy, thanks. I know you're very busy, my friend. Be well. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. That's quite a little treat, Harvey, huh?
It makes me want to move to Houston.
Yeah, exactly. Those guys. We lost Dusty Hill last year, but what a great group. They're still playing. They're still playing indeed. So let's talk a little bit more about Jimi Hendrix and then move on to some of the music in the 60s. You say that he spotted a UFO in his day.
You know, Jimmy, from a very early age, was obsessed with science fiction and doodling, flying saucers and all that. And he never hid the fact in interviews or in conversations that he saw UFOs one time in Maui near a volcano, and it was sort of part of his arsenal, and some of the observations show up, like you played All Along the Watchtower from his album Electric Ladyland. I mean, there's a track on that album called House Burning Down where he talks about like a giant boat from space, or there's another album he did, Axis Bold as Love, and there's a tune called Up from the Skies, and he was very influenced by a book from 1957, Philip Jose Farmer's A Night of the Light, where kind of purple haze came from. There's a purplish haze. And even when he arrived in England in 1966 and he ran into a singer-songwriter producer named Kim Fowley, he immediately said to Kim, I have a song called Martian Love Machine, and that's really influenced by Ray Bradbury. So you see the path. It was part of his whole trek.
What a tragedy when we lost that talent, huh?
I have a distinct memory. You and I are the same age, and I'm well aware of the world you come from, of Detroit,
yep.
doo-wop, Casey Kasem, Motown, and I'm right behind you there. And I was going to a junior college in West L.A., and when I heard the news going to class, and I think you probably may feel this same way, his loss hit me like it was when we found out about John F. Kennedy. I can't say it was a death in the family, but it just the earth stood still, and I knew something important was lost. And here we are, 55 years later. And it's more apparent as you travel back in time.
And it was that strange year again of 27 years old that so many great artists have died.
You know, that 27 club that started developing, I don't think anybody predicted this thing. It's like a football game with 777. Like, you want to get to 28, times 4 or something. it just becomes sort of a benchmark, and the media has been really preoccupied with that. But there's no denying that that's a team of people that are all linked together.
You mentioned Detroit, and of course, it's my hometown, and very familiar with Motown Records and Berry Gordy Jr., who, my gosh, he's 92 years old. He's going to be 93 years old in November.
Again, I think I've been in this music journalism world for close to half a century. The first few years, I would meet people. I was never really kind of an autograph fan or something. I really was kind of a student of the game and really wanted to know about music and how recordings were done. It took me 5 years politely to be granted an interview with Berry Gordy, because that music of Motown, sure, it's the soundtrack of our lives. We've heard that before. And I was summoned when he put out his autobiography, To Be Loved, and it was just one of those things where they said, Mr. Gordy would like you to come to his home for this interview.
Wow.
Because Barry was aware that I knew who Jackie Wilson was. That's one of your guys, I know that. And he had written songs for Jackie Wilson. And it was one of the few times I wasn't nervous, but I was with somebody. As you're talking to people like Berry Gordy, and this happens when you encounter somebody from the Beatles or interview somebody in the Rolling Stones, you realize their music or their album covers or a radio is playing with their catalog at many seminal, life-changing events of your life. And I am talking to Berry Gordy, and I remember he signed his book to me, but I was actually able to ask not just about certain songs of the Supremes and the Temptations. I just got a handle. I was dealing with somebody that I knew changed the world as an entrepreneur, as a music maker. And I know in the case of myself, and I know you coming from Detroit, just realize what that record label and that vision has done for all of us.
Oh, truly remarkable. I mean, didn't he also handle the Jackson 5?
Well, he signed them to Motown Records. They came from Indiana, but as he was expanding his vision out west to Los Angeles and Hollywood, he knew that a different tree of Motown had to be planted, and not groups that came out of doo-wop and that world of Detroit, but a younger demographic and a self-contained group where the group actually played instruments and just not were singers and dancers. And he developed and nurtured them and released them, to our world.
Barry's a genius. I mean, he really is. I mean, when it comes down to it, I think he was one of the most influential musical people in the world, wasn't he?
It didn't take the recent Kennedy honors for us to sort of get that sanction. It was what he accomplished as a music maverick and an independent promoter. Books and films can't capture it because, it's not about a brand and a corporate entity developing and selling records. If you just spend a minute and say Berry Gordy Motown, and then you start thinking about the Four Tops or the roots of it, Harvey and the Moonclothes and Smokey Robinson, and you start thinking of the hundreds of records or the lyrics of some of these songs, they have been at your wedding. They have been at your bar mitzvah. They have been at your graduation. You've heard them at funerals and eulogies. I mean, just take the 10 seconds and say Motown almost as a mantra, and then you go, okay. And then if you surrender to it, our lives have been impacted by what he gave us.
So many talented people coming out of Detroit, Harvey, including my dear friend, the late Casey Kasem.
Casey meant a lot to me. I was honored when the Hollywood Reporter, Billboard magazine, asked me to write the tribute and obituary when Casey departed our physical world. After Detroit, he came to Los Angeles in the very, very early 60s and was a mainstay here with such a fantastic voice and a storyteller. And, as a youth in L.A., growing up as a native of Los Angeles and living in Hollywood, I actually danced on things like American Bandstand. I danced on his show Shebang. And so to be on teen shows, I was a lousy dancer, but somehow I got on. I mean, yeah, and I wasn't going to meet girls. I just wanted to hear the music.
You just love the music.
Okay? But there are some voices that make an indelible impression on us, and because I got to know him a bit and wrote a tribute to him, I was so well aware of the impact of him from Detroit, or I think Georgie Woods, and the Detroit world came to Los Angeles through people like Casey, where he would tell us about the origins of Motown and Woodward Avenue and things like that. These were frontiers and territories we never learned about in school, but his voice was our teacher.
I met Casey back in 2002 at a company Christmas party because we syndicated his American Top 40 show. And our network president, who brought Casey into the fold, knew that I was from Detroit, Casey was from Detroit, and knew that I wanted to meet him. So at dinner time for their annual Christmas party, he sits me, Harvey, right next to Casey Kasem. And that's how I met him.
Well, you certainly were reaching for the stars with that one.
Absolutely. I mean, and we stayed friends until he died, and we would meet at a little restaurant not far from the studios every once in a while, and just a great dedicated broadcaster.
I think I've seen both you and him at the Great Greek in Sherman Oaks, by the way.
Yep, you did.
Uh-huh.
It's fantastic. And but what a great talent. And in those days, those DJs made the musician, didn't they?
Well, the DJs were disc jockeys. They weren't. They didn't have 18 different agendas and side businesses and all kinds of things going, which is totally fine. This was a job.
They loved music.
They came out of music. They loved music. They were dictated by music, and they also knew they had some freedom as far as song selection, and then, of course, they were maybe dictated a bit by programming. But they were the people that were on the front lines, and I'm going back to the 50s and the 60s. They were ushering in the debut recordings and albums or concert events, or I'm sure you know about this, appearances at department stores or record hops and things like that.
Yep.
They were the missionaries bringing us audio messages. Sure, they were exposing product and hoping we would go to buy the records and things like that. But you and I know, and I know your audience feels this, it was deeper than that. It was almost like they were ordained or anointed to put in 1 year or 5 years or 10 or 20 years to just bring hope and possibility to us.
Absolutely. I knew the late Russ Reagan, who discovered the Beach Boys.
Oh, my God, that's one of my mentors.
What a great story he told me once. When he met the Beach Boys, they were called the Pendletons, which was named after a sweater.
Yes.
And he said, no, that's going to change. And
I wrote Russ's obituary.
Oh, you're kidding.
Too, and I met him.
I know his wife, Cheryl, well. She's a wonderful lady. Harvey Kubernick, he does a great job. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladouceur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Boros, Tim Banal, Ryan Stacy,